It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, joined today by Will Rogers. He is a member of the Burbank City Council, very active in an issue that's before the voters today in Burbank. It's known as Measure B. It deals with the Hollywood-Burbank Airport, the new name of that airport. Before we talk about Measure B, I want to talk about a little history surrounding Burbank Airport, which I have used my entire life. Tell us about the history of your beautiful airport.
Yeah, and I think it's a fascinating story because it started in 1930. The company that came to be known to us as Lockheed operated the airport for many years, built and operated the airport for many years. And come along about the middle of the 1970s, the federal government changed the rules and said we are no longer going to use federal dollars any longer to subsidize the operations of private airports. And that's what Lockheed's United Air Terminal and there's several other names it's held over the years. It also, by the way, many decades back, previously had the name, it's just taken anew again.
At the Hollywood-Burbank.
As the Hollywood-Burbank Airport.
So what happened in the 70s? It became...
Well, in the 1970s, they said, we're going to look for municipalities to take this over as a joint powers authority because Lockheed was not interested in paying the freight all by themselves of operating the airport.
So that's how, when you walk through the Burbank Airport and you look at the pictures on the wall, there's pictures of 9 individuals.
When government gets involved, you're going to see their pictures on the wall somewhere.
And the 9 individuals, 3 from Burbank, 3 from Glendale, 3 from Pasadena.
That's correct. Initially, Los Angeles was asked to get involved.
Okay.
They said they weren't interested. They didn't see any interest for their constituents. Now they would love to change that.
Sure.
At one time, just Pasadena and just Glendale were interested. And the FAA said, we can't have a single city because that's so political. It can change from one city council to another. One will advocate growth of the airport, and 2 years later, another comes along to change it. So they wanted the evenness that, and stability that might come with 2 or 3 cities. And that's how we became involved, again, by voter approval. In the 1970s, we were made 3 big promises in the city of Burbank. If you join this authority, number 1, Lockheed will stay here and keep all their jobs here.
I don't think they did that.
They did it for a handful of years after that. And that's when we found there was no guarantee. There was no penalty. It was a promise. Number 2, just as important to us, was that we would be given control over noise. And of course, Glendale and Pasadena are not directly impacted by the noise. We are almost exclusively, along with Los Angeles.
Right.
And we took that as a promise, just like Lockheed wanted.
And have you
had
control over noise?
We found almost instantly that we had 0 control over noise. It's entirely a federal mandate. And they're not interested in sharing that.
What's the third point?
You catch me. Because
I mean, does it have to do with growth?
No.
It doesn't.
No.
So let's talk, though.
Well, it was preserving the jobs in the area and the revenues, because we enjoy, the city of Burbank enjoys an enormous benefit from property taxes paid on aircraft that are based at the airport.
Well, let's talk about growth, though, because that obviously is a very significant issue. Part of the reason why Burbank is so popular is because it's fairly easy to access. The terminals are close to the parking, but there is a need to, I don't know if I want to say expand, but at least revamp Burbank Airport.
We could say modernize, update. Because yes, until recently anyway, every effort to update or modernize the terminal has come with it the efforts to add to the number of gates, which the people of Burbank, the residents, have viewed as an expansion that they want nothing to do with.
Right now there are 14.
Exactly.
There have been discussions to
there
get
are
as
14
high
gates.
as 27.
Exactly. And in fact, at one point in the late 80s. They were shooting for 27 gates.
But as I understand it, sir, under the Joint Powers Authority Agreement, as it's written today, even though Glendale and Burbank are not directly impacted by Burbank Airport, if at all, Burbank Airport's in Burbank, they had just as much of a vote on expansion as Burbank.
You hit
Right.
the nail on the head. On the head. The folks who were not being impacted by the decisions made there were playing a very significant role in making those decisions. Their impacts, what they care about, are revenues,
Right.
hotel revenues, employer. It's a very important to many of the employers in the area that there be an airport nearby.
Landing fees presumably would benefit.
And everything from shipping. We have both FedEx and UPS shipping
Right.
out of Burbank. To your executive being able to say, hop on a plane up to San Jose.
But ultimately, the three cities got together,
Right.
and came up with a compromise. And the compromise is codified in Measure B. Is that accurate?
Well, no, it's just incomplete.
Okay, go.
They have the Joint Powers Agreement. And let me tell you that the city has long, for probably 20 years now, had very strained relationships with the airport authority.
Oh, I see. Even Burbank.
Absolutely, including their own commissioners at
Wow.
times.
Okay.
Because there has been they've specifically said at times, commissioners have said, these aren't public monies. This is a federal issue, not a local issue.
So-
even though those planes are going over your
Right.
head.
So what happened with Measure B? How did it come to pass?
The authority decided it was going to go ahead and build a large new terminal, and we found that there was state law under the Public Utilities Code that essentially required they get our permission before doing that.
I see.
The city of Burbank was able to put a stop to the entire process and put the land that had been purchased in escrow, and it was held in escrow until either we acknowledged that we could not come to an agreement, it would be sold, and they would have to give up this new terminal plan, or until we could come to terms. And even those terms would still have to be approved by the people, the residents of the city of Burbank.
So that's how Measure B was
That's
born.
Measure B.
And what does Measure B do?
Measure B, first and most importantly, reflects the impact, the true impacts of the airport on the city itself, the city around it, and so gives Burbank an increased say on issues related to growth.
So to be clear for our viewers and for Burbank residents, there are 9 commissioners.
Correct.
In order for any growth projects to be approved, 2 of Burbank's 3 commissioners must say yes,
Bingo
regardless of
again.
whatever everyone else says.
Exactly. It can be unanimous among all the other commissioners, but if you don't have 2 Burbank commissioners saying, yes, we agree, whatever it is, if it's growth related, adding a gate, adding square footage to the terminal.
And so
is
that
not gonna
measure
happen.
is before Burbank voters, only Burbank voters,
That's
on
correct.
November 8th.
That's
And
correct.
as I understand it, you're a significant proponent of it.
I am, along with 3 of my colleagues on the city council. One opposes it, and to my knowledge, I don't know of any organized opposition at this time.
Will you come back after the election? Because I want to hear what happens if it passes, what happens if it doesn't pass.
Sure.
His name is Will Rogers. He's a councilman in the city of Burbank. My name is Brad Pomerance. You're joining us on Charter Local Edition.